One morning, when the kettle had boiled 3 times, because Maxi kept forgetting that she had made tea, the house fell full of unfinished minutes. Not bad minutes, not wasted minutes, just loose ones. They lay around the room like socks without partners. A half-written note on the desk, a book open beside another book, a list with too many arrows and not enough breathing space, a cup of tea that had once been hot and now seemed to have accepted its destiny. At the top of Maxi's notebook was one sentence. Why is everything taking so long? She stared at it. It stared back. The dogs, meanwhile, were arranged in the usual positions of authority. Psycho lay beside the door like a snow-covered mountain with opinions. He did not know what day it was. He had never known what day it was. This had never caused him any distress. Gypsy sat near the window, watching the birds with the seriousness of a highly trained sky inspector. She was not thinking about yesterday. She was not planning tomorrow. She was fully committed to the Hardy-Dar, currently making questionable decisions in the garden. Lucy had placed herself in the middle of the room because Lucy believed all important paths, people and snacks should pass through her first. I am not impatient, Maxi said. Psycho opened one eye, Gypsy flicked an ear, and Lucy gave a tiny snort. At that exact moment, every clock in the house began to tick. Not together. That would have been too sensible. The wall clock ticked too fast, as though it had somewhere urgent to be. The little clock on the shelf ticked too slowly, dragging each second behind it like wet washing. The oven clock flashed midnight. Her phone said it was yesterday. The old brass clock that had not worked in years suddenly chimed 13 times. It sounded very pleased with itself. Then the room softened. The corners of the walls drooped slightly, as though the house had sighed. The curtains lifted without wind. The steam from Maxi's forgotten tea curled upward in a spiral. A clock on the shelf bent at the middle and folded softly over the edge, limp as warm fabric. Well, Maxi said, that is new. Then she noticed the painting. It hung on the wall between 2 shelves of books. Maxi was certain it had not been there yesterday. It showed a strange golden landscape under a violet sky. A bare tree leaned over a quiet field, and a clock drooped from one of its branches, soft as cloth. Another lay folded over a stone, and in the distance, a road made of clock hands curved towards a horizon that seemed to be waiting for someone. Maxi frowned. I definitely did not hang that painting. The clock inside the painting ticked. Only once. Psycho lifted his head. Gypsy rose from the window. Lucy stood immediately, because Lucy believed any object behaving strangely was probably an invitation. The painted sky shimmered. The limp clock slid a little further over the painted branch. Golden light spilled out of the frame and onto the floorboards. Then the painted road moved. Not much, just enough to prove that it could. Words appeared across the bottom of the frame, written in curling gold. The land of almost time. Maxi stared at the painting. Oh no, she said. Lucy placed one paw on the lower edge of the frame. Absolutely not, said Maxi. Lucy placed the second paw beside it. The painting rippled like warm water. Psycho sighed deeply as though disappointed but not surprised by the day. Gypsy sniffed the golden light, considered the matter, and stepped closer. Maxi reached towards the frame. Her fingers passed through the painted sky. It felt warm. It smelled of dust, sun-baked earth, old paper, and something that had nearly bloomed. Well, she said softly, that is definitely new. Lucy climbed in first, naturally. For one impossible moment, her body became brushstrokes and light. Then she was standing on the painted road, looking back at them as if everyone else was being unnecessarily slow. Psycho followed with great dignity. Gypsy slipped through after him, light-footed and alert. Maxi looked once at her cold tea, once at the impossible painting, and then gathered the hem of a coral dress. I really must stop asking questions before tea, she muttered, and she climbed into the painting. She landed in a field of clocks. Not ordinary clocks. Nothing about this place believed in ordinary. Clocks grew from the ground like flowers, their faces tilted towards the sun. Some were small as daisies, others stood tall as sunflowers. Pocket watches hung from acacia branches, turning slowly in a breeze that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Hourglasses leaned against aloe plants, pouring golden sand upward instead of down, and everywhere clocks drooped. They melted over branches, they folded over stones, they slid softly down the sides of old wooden tables. None of them seemed broken. They seemed relieved, as if at last they had stopped pretending to be in charge. The sky above was violet and gold, and clouds shaped like calendar pages drifted by. The one said, "Too late." Another said, "Not yet." And a third said, "Soonish." Maxie did not like how personal that felt. A tiny bell rang beside her foot. She looked down. A meerkat wearing spectacles and a waistcoat stood on a mushroom, holding a clipboard nearly as tall as himself. "Name?" he asked. "Maxi." "Appointment?" "I didn't make one." The meerkat clicked his tongue. "Nobody does. Then everyone complains about the timing." "I was summoned." "Yes, yes," he said, flipping through the pages. "They always are." "They?" "People who think the future has misplaced them." Maxi opened her mouth and closed it again. The meerkat peered over his spectacles. "Madam, you arrived with 3 dogs, a cold cup of tea in your soul, and a question about why everything is taking so long." Maxi looked away. Lucy wagged her tail. The meerkat pointed down a winding path made of clock hands. "Follow the ticking road. The keeper is expecting you." "The keeper?" "The keeper of almost time." "Is he wise?" she asked. The meerkat hesitated. "He has a hat." "That was not my question." "He also has boots." "I see," said Maxi. "Scuffed boots," the meerkat added, as though they settled the matter. The ticking road unfolded before them, so Maxi followed it. The first place they came to was a town called Hurry. The name was painted on a crooked sign in aggressive capital letters, underlined twice with 3 exclamation marks. Everyone in Hurry was running. People ran with baskets, books, babies, ladders, shopping bags, ideas, teacups, and one very annoyed goat on a lead. A woman rushed past carrying unbaked bread, the dough flopping over the edge of the tray like something trying to escape. "Excuse me," Maxi called. "Where are you going?" "I don't know," the woman shouted, "but I'm behind." "Behind what?" The woman stopped. For one whole second, nobody moved. "I don't know that either," she whispered. Then the clock tower in the middle of town clanged. "Faster!" Everyone gasped and began running again. A man stumbled past carrying a tree in a pot. It was not a small tree. It was the kind of tree that clearly wanted to have a conversation with the sky. "Why are you running with that?" Maxi asked. "It has to grow by noon," he panted. "Trees don't grow because you run with them." The man looked offended. The tree looked exhausted. Maxi knelt beside the pot and touched the soil. It was dry as old paper. "It doesn't need speed," she said. "It needs water and stillness and someone to stop carrying it around long enough for the roots to settle." The man stared at her. "Water takes time." "Yes," Maxi said. "Most living things do." The clock tower clanged again. "Faster!" Maxi stood up. "No," she said. The whole town froze. The bell cleared its throat. "Excuse me?" "I said no." A breeze moved through the square. People looked at one another. They looked at their baskets, their books, their unbaked bread, their unfinished lives. Psycho walked to the base of the clock tower and sat down. He did not bark and he did not growl. He simply sat with the ancient authority of a creature who understood that stillness is sometimes the strongest thing in the room. The clock tower shuddered. Lucy padded over to the woman with the unbaked bread and sat firmly on her foot. The woman stopped trying to run, and in the silence that followed, something extraordinary happened. people heard themselves breathing. In, out, in, out. No bell could compete with that. No calendar could improve it. No deadline could make it more real. The tower started cracking from top to bottom. A golden vine rose from the ground and wrapped itself around the bell. Small white flowers bloomed across the metal. The sign above the town changed. It no longer said, "Hurry." It now said, "Breathe first." The woman sat down and began kneading her bread properly. The man with the tree set the pot on the ground and went looking for water. The goat lay down immediately, as though it had been waiting for civilization to catch up. Maxi looked at the town. For the first time, she noticed something strange. There were no birds rushing overhead, no bees panicking between flowers, no grass trying to grow faster because someone had named the day Monday. The living world had not received the memo. Maxi smiled. The ticking road opened ahead. Beyond the town of Hurry lay a misty valley. It was quiet here, too quiet. Half-built bridges stretched over silver streams, but stopped just before the other side. Half-open doors stood in empty fields. Half-written letters fluttered from trees. Tiny houses waited without roofs. A garden had been planted in perfect rows, but nothing had broken through the soil. A wooden sign stood at the entrance. The Valley of Almost. Maxi felt something twist in her chest. "Oh," she whispered. Everywhere she looked, there were things nearly done. Not abandoned, not dead, just paused. A book with only the last page missing. A painting covered before the final brushstroke. A table set for guests who had never arrived. A bridge one plank short. And then, laid over it all, Maxi saw her own almost. The books waiting. The ideas started in fire and stalled in the difficult middle. The plans, the remedies, the platforms, the dreams. All the things that had once felt alive and then became heavy because she had carried them too long without resting. "I thought almost meant failure," she said. A voice answered from the mist. "Most people do." Maxi turned. An old man stood beside the unfinished bridge. He was tall and thin, with a beard that seemed to have collected bits of weather. His coat was patched with pieces of seasons: summer grass, autumn leaves, winter stars, and spring blossoms. On his head sat a magnificent hat, slightly too large, slightly crooked, decorated with feathers, clock hands, a brass button, and one tiny spoon. His boots were scuffed beyond reason, not dirty, experienced. "You must be the keeper," Maxi said. He tipped his hat. "The keeper of almost time, at your service." "Are the boots part of the job?" she asked. "Essential. And the hat? Even more essential." Lucy sniffed one boot and approved. The keeper looked across the valley. "Almost is a misunderstood place," he said. "People think it means not enough, not finished, not worthy. But almost is often where the roots are forming." "But what if something never gets completed?" Maxi asked. "Then perhaps it was a bridge to a place you no longer need to go." Maxi looked at him sharply. He just shrugged. "The trick is learning what to water, what to finish, and what to release back into the soil." A small brass key lay on the bridge, and Maxi picked it up. As she picked it up, it changed. The key softened, curled, and became a tiny golden seed. The bridge creaked. One new plank appeared. Not the whole bridge, just one plank, enough for the next step. "Only one," the keeper smiled. "One is plenty when one is the next." Gypsy stepped onto the new plank with quiet confidence. Maxi watched across, light-footed and sure, and Psycho followed steadily. Lucy bounded ahead, then turned back with the expression of someone bravely enduring everyone else's slower development. Maxi laughed. The valley sign shimmered. It no longer said, "The Valley of Almost." It now said, "The place where things are still becoming." "That feels kinder," Maxi said. "And it is truer," said the keeper. The ticking road led them out of the valley and into a wide golden field. The light here was different. It was softer, warmer. Not morning, not afternoon, not evening. A time that did not need a name. The field stretched in every direction, quiet and alive. Maxi could feel something beneath the soil. Thousands of seeds, some swelling with water, some sending roots into the dark, some still hard and silent, waiting for their season. There were no clocks here. Or rather, there were clocks, but they had forgotten how to command. They lay limp over stones and branches, soft and harmless, as if they had finally understood that the point was never the ticking. The point was life. The keeper removed his strange hat and held it respectfully against his chest. "The field of sleeping miracles," he said. Even Lucy stepped carefully, and Maxi looked around. "Nothing is happening." The keeper raised one eyebrow. "That is a very human thing to say." "Well, it looks like nothing," Maxi said. "Most beginnings do." He reached into his coat pocket and took out a small clay bowl filled with seeds. Some were bright, some were smooth, some had tiny cracks showing the promise of green. But Maxi's fingers moved towards a dull little seed near the edge, very plain and unimpressive, almost forgettable, and she picked it up. It was warm. The keeper smiled. "Ah, what?" asked Maxi. "A beginning you nearly dismissed because it did not look dramatic enough." Maxi sighed. "That sounds familiar." "It usually does," he said. She knelt and dug a small hole with her fingers. The soil was warm and soft and smelled like rain that had not yet arrived. She placed the seed inside and covered it gently, and then she waited. Nothing happened. She leaned closer. Still nothing. Lucy leaned closer too, just in case dog breath helped. Still nothing. "Did I plant it wrong?" Maxi asked. "No," he said. "Is it broken?" "No." "Should I do something?" "Yes." "What?" she asked. The keeper sat down in the grass, stretched out his scuffed boots and smiled. "Love what you are doing right now." Maxi blinked. "That's it?" "That is not a small thing," he said. "I thought I was supposed to learn patience," Maxi asked. "You are," said the keeper, "but patience without love becomes punishment. Sitting here angrily, waiting for the seed to prove itself, is not trust, it is surveillance." Maxi looked down at the little patch of soil. That landed deep. The keeper's voice softened a bit. "Living in the moment does not mean giving up on the future. It means not abandoning the present while you wait for it." He pointed towards the sky where golden birds moved without hurry. "Humans invented weekdays," he said. "Monday, Friday, month end, deadlines, late, too late, not yet, behind. But the ocean does not know it is Tuesday. The bee does not panic because it is nearly the end of the week. The bird does not sing harder because the calendar says it should. The dog does not love you more on a Saturday than on a Wednesday." Lucy thumped her tail as if to confirm this officially. "The living world does not move by weekdays," the keeper said. "It moves by rhythm, tide, hunger, light, rest, rain, ripening, and breath." The field grew very still around them. "Much of your stress," he continued, "comes from forcing living things to obey dead measurements." Maxi looked at the seed, her little project, her small beginning, her quiet almost. The thing she had been trying to hurry into proof. The keeper nodded towards the soil. "Water it, love it, do what is yours today, then let tomorrow arrive when it arrives." The wind moved through the field, and Maxi placed her hand over the soil. For once, she did not poke the seed. She did not dig it up to check if it was working. She did not explain to it how important timing was. She simply sat. Lucy rested her chin on Maxi's knee, which was her way of improving the moment for everyone involved. The sun warmed Maxi's shoulders. The grass moved around her. A bird called once from somewhere unseen, and Maxi noticed something. This moment was not empty. It had the warmth of Lucy against her leg. It had soil under her fingernails. It had golden light. It had the scent of grass and earth. It had a strange old man with a ridiculous hat sitting quietly beside her. It had enough. The seed had not sprouted, but something beneath the soil pulsed, a tiny yes from the dark. Maxi's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted proof," she whispered. The keeper nodded. "You were given a pulse." From inside his coat, he took out a small clock. It had no numbers and no hands, only a golden seed painted at its center. "This is yours." She took it and said, "It doesn't tell time." "No," said the keeper, "it tells truth." The clock ticked softly. Not like a machine, like a heartbeat. Tick, breathe. Tick, trust. Tick, begin. A single hand appeared on its face. It did not point forward. It did not point back. It pointed inward. Maxi held the clock against her chest. "Oh," she said. The keeper put his hat back on. It sat at an even more questionable angle than before. Your timing was never separate from your listening, and all around the field, seeds stirred underground. Not all at once, not dramatically, each in its own moment. Some split open, some sent roots even deeper. Some remained still, not refusing, only not yet. Above them, the limp clocks lifted gently from the stones and branches. They softened into moons, then flowers, then small golden birds that circled the field in many different rhythms. Fast, slow, wild, gentle, steady, bright. And none of them were wrong. Each rhythm belonged, and all of it was alive. At the edge of the field, the painted frame appeared again. It stood upright in the golden grass, holding inside it the soft outline of Maxi's study, the desk, the books, the cold tea, and the notebook waiting patiently beneath the morning light. "It is time to return," the keeper said. "Already?" "Yes," he said. Maxi looked down at the little clock in her hand. "What happens if I forget?" "You will." "That's not very comforting." "It is only being honest." She gave him a look. He tipped his hat. "But you will remember enough." "What will I remember?" The keeper bent down, picked up a handful of soil, and let it fall slowly through his fingers. That not every quiet season is empty. The wind moved through the field. That urgency is not the same as truth. That weekdays are human inventions, not laws of life. Maxi looked at the field, the birds, the sleeping seeds, the dogs waiting patiently by the frame. "And," said the keeper, "that the seed was never late, it was only waiting for the right season." The words settled into Maxi like warm rain. One by one, the dogs stepped back through the painting. Lucy first, because this had clearly become policy. Psycho followed with solemn dignity. Gypsy paused at the end of the painted frame and looked back across the field. The sleeping seeds, the strange old keeper with his hat and scuffed boots, and then she crossed over. Maxi turned one last time. "Will I know what to do next?" The keeper's eyes twinkled. "No," he said, and Maxi groaned. "But," he said, "you will know what is yours to water." The painting shimmered, and Maxi fell softly back into morning. Maxi woke at her desk. The kettle clicked off in the kitchen. The tea beside her was cold. The notebook still lay open. At the top of the page was the same question. Why is everything taking so long? The dogs were exactly where they had been. Well, almost. Psycho lay beside the door, pretending with great dignity that he had not recently sat at the base of a shouting clock tower. Gypsy watched the window with a soft distant gaze of someone listening to birds that might or might not belong to this world. Lucy had a small golden seed husk stuck to her collar. Maxie noticed it. Lucy looked away with impressive confidence. On the wall between the bookshelves, the painting hung quietly. Now it only showed a golden field, a crooked old tree, and a limp clock resting softly over the branch. But if Maxie looked closely, she could see a tiny road made of clock hands disappearing into the distance. On the desk beside the notebook sat a little clock, with no numbers and no hands, only a tiny golden seed painted in the center, and it was ticking softly. Tick, breathe. Tick, trust. Tick, begin. Maxie picked up a pen. Under the first question, she wrote, "What is mine to water today?" And then she closed the notebook. Not forever, just long enough to go and make fresh tea. Outside, she heard a bird sing from somewhere in the garden. Not because it was late, and not because it was early, and definitely not because it was Monday. It sang because it was alive, and the branch was good, and the air was cool, and this moment was here. Maxie stood at the window and smiled. She did not have to force the future to arrive. She did not have to measure her life against clocks that had forgotten that life was the point. She did not have to make her work bloom before its roots were ready. She only had to keep listening, keep loving what was in front of her, keep watering what was alive, and trust that when the time was right, the quiet thing would grow. Because the seed was never late. It was only waiting for the right season.